everyone. This is Rhiannon Payne, Marketing Director at Ruby Central, and I'm here today with Tom Rossi. Tom is the technical co-founder of Higher Pixels, which is a product company that builds products including Buzzsprout, which you may have heard of because many podcasts in the Ruby and Rails ecosystem actually rely on Buzzsprout for their publishing and distribution. Tom, it's so great to have you here. I'm really excited to learn more about how you got started in this space and your journey.
Sure. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me. We started building products in probably 2001 is when we pivoted from being a client services company to building product. And around 2005, we were introduced to Ruby on Rails. We were a Microsoft shop before that. And we saw the infamous blog with David building a blog with Ruby on Rails, and we were like, we want to be able to do that. And we started building on Rails and have not looked back. Like, it's been great. It helped provide focus. Not only Rails provides focus in how you build software, but also really how you build product. It's about being opinionated and not building a lot of mass, optimizing things for the experience of your users and stuff like that. And so it's been great.
I'm sure you have tons of interesting stories to share. I love that you are a Ruby and Rails OG. You've basically been there from the beginning, using Rails, involving yourself in the ecosystem and community. I'd love to cover maybe some of the products that you guys originally launched at Higher Pixels, maybe back in that 2005 era.
Yeah. The first product that we ever launched was a product called Tick. And it was built based on our experience when we did client services work, the frustration of tracking your time. And then at the end of the project, when you go to build the customer, you realize that actually you blew your budget a week ago and you didn't realize it. And nobody on the team knew that we were going over our hours and things. So it was all about tracking time to hit your budgets. And that was the first product that we ever launched. And it did really well. We continue to support it. We're just not building new features for it, but we continue to patch it and keep it up to date with Rails and things like that. And so Tick was time tracking. We had another product that was in the nonprofit space called M Sites, which were like mini websites for small nonprofits, where it had like blogs and photo galleries and calendar and all these things that it's hard to remember before Facebook and everybody else. There just wasn't a product like that. When we built M Sites, the first version was built in Microsoft in 2001, and then we rebuilt it in Rails in 2006 or 7, and there was just nothing like it. And so that product ended up having a lot of churches that were using it, and the churches were asking us, how do I get my sermons online? And that's where Buzzsprout came from. So Buzzsprout was built to be able to build podcasts, but to make it really simple for people, volunteers at churches that don't understand audio encoding and MP3s and file formats and bit rates. And so we built a very simple application to be able to build a podcast. And we had no idea how big podcasting would be. We loved podcasts, but we were technical people. And so it did really well. So along the way, we also built a product called Stream Care, which is a medical product, which we just had a friend who was struggling with software, and we loved Rails. And we were like, we think we could build a product better than any of the stuff that you're looking at, and we'll do it. We'll build it completely. No contracts, nothing. We'll build this product for you, and you can just pay us a transaction fee. And that was a transaction on any transaction that we run through the system. And so that's StreamCare. And that product does really well to this day. We have a dedicated team that continues to build features for StreamCare. And we continue to build features for Buzzsprout. For our other products, we just support and just keep them running. We also built a product along the way called Donor Tools, which kind of was built out of that relationship that we had with nonprofits, which just a very simple tool to be able to track donations and do year-end giving and things like that. But all of our products are built on Rails, as vanilla as can be, because I like to say that we're not that smart. Like we don't, we I trust other people's opinions more than ours. And so we take all the Rails opinions and build as vanilla as we can. And we've benefited greatly from that, especially if you look at our Buzzsprout product. We have a native mobile app for both Android and Apple that it just wouldn't have been possible without us building natively vanilla, Hotwire, Stimulus, Strata, being able to do all of that. It just made it much, much simpler for us. And yeah, huge fans of Ruby on Rails. Those are the products that we've built. Yeah, anything I can tell you
Yeah.
about any of that.
No, that's incredible. I love
Oh,
the,
and in small team, let me
yes.
just say,
Okay, yes.
small team. At one point, it was me and my partner. I'm more on the technical side. He's more on the creative design side. And there was two of us, and we were running three or four products. So we had more products than people for the longest time. And then we decided we wanted to grow the team, not too big, but we wanted to be big enough that we could have an impact in our employees' lives. Like we wanted to have people that we could have make a positive difference in their life. And we also wanted people that really wanted to do great work. And so now there's 30 of us in Higher Pixels. There's maybe three or four Rails developers, two or three designers, and then a big support team for our Buzzsprout team. And then StreamCare has its own dedicated team.
Wow, that's great. I was actually, that was going to be the next question I was going to ask was about the team. And I really like the idea of, and generally speaking, working where you do keep things really simple and lightweight and flexible and iterative. I feel like when you say you're not that smart, you guys probably have incredible intuition around the product side of things after launching so many products and maintaining them for 2 decades now, like Buzzsprout.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that we are a product development company first. And we're thinking about how to build product that meets a need, that delivers value. And because of that, we've always embraced healthy tension between designers and programmers so that we get the best results. Designers that push the envelope of making it as usable as possible, but they have to also be able to understand HTML and CSS and what's possible with the browser. But they push the programmers, and the programmers push the designers, right? Because a lot of times that they might come up with something that's really complicated. So if you just tweaked it a little bit, we could get this done. And so there's this healthy tension that exists as a product development company, not as we're not a science experiment of software, right? We have a goal to ship features that deliver value to our customers. And because of that, we use our software in a very specific way. And so we're always asking the question, all the different fads that would come along of, oh, people are using this gem or people are switching over to this and whatever. And we just never did that because we were too focused on building the features that we needed for our customers. And if I can do that without having to learn a new framework or a new software or a new whatever, I'm gonna do that with what I know, with the tool that I know, and keep it as vanilla as possible.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of product studios or companies fall short is getting too in the weeds of the technical piece without truly considering the user experience that they want to deliver and what their clients or users are going to find useful. I have also been a PM and run a product studio for clients
So
or
you've
clients.
seen,
So yeah, I get it completely.
I think it's one thing that people don't talk about enough, which is there should be a healthy tension that is maintained between designers and programmers. And if there's not a healthy tension, if one of them dominates the other one, then the product is going to pay the price. If the designers dominate the technical team, you're going to end up with a product that's overly complicated and hard to adapt and grow and build more features. But if it's dominated by the technical people, it's not going to be usable. It might be very efficient, but it's not going to be usable by people. And so that's always been important to us to maintain a healthy tension between designers and programmers. And I think that's what really helps overcome that. You'll hear people that are like, "Oh, I can do both." I'm like, you can't. You might be able to write HTML and CSS and write some code, but you're probably better at one than the other. You're probably either better at design or better at programming, but usually there should be a healthy tension between the two.
Yeah, healthy tension or healthy balance there. Like at a certain point, doesn't matter how well optimized your background jobs are if it's nothing anyone actually wants to use at the end
Yeah,
of the day. But,
yeah.
and I want to talk a little bit about Buzzsprout specifically. Would you say for Higher Pixels was Buzzsprout your first big win as a product company, or was there something before that you feel like put you guys on the map?
Tick was our first big win. Like that out of the gate, it was really embraced by the community, not by the Rails community, but by the community of developers that needed to track time and hit budgets. And so we've continued to have tons of customers that use Tick to be able to track their time and hit budgets. And so Buzzsprout was fun to work on because it was podcasting and we loved podcasting, but we never thought it would pay the bills. Like we never thought it was profitable because it's software, but it wasn't something that we ever expected to be that big. So Tick was our first really big product. And then when we launched StreamCare, in the medical space, if you can bring just a little bit of efficiency, there's tons of opportunity to be able to make money. And so then stream care became our dominant product. But then meanwhile, podcasting and with the iPhone, when the iPhone came out with a podcast app, that was a big jump in the number of podcasts that were out there. And then when Serial came out, that was a massive influx of podcasters. And then during COVID, that was like you're holding on to a rocket ship by your fingernails as it's, especially when you talk about scaling Ruby on Rails, like we handle a crazy amount of traffic off of over 120,000 active podcasts, but we probably have 400,000 podcasts that are out there that we're handling all the requests for, and all with Ruby on Rails. And so when it exploded, it became our biggest product, and it dominated a lot of our attention. That's why we ended up having to separate the team so that there were people that would just work on maintaining and building features for stream care because we were spending so much time at Buzzsprout.
Wow. And I didn't realize this before this conversation that you guys have really been working on Buzzsprout since the early days of podcasting. Because I've been listening to podcasts forever since I was downloading them on my iPod Nano and taking them to school in high school and listening to things after school. Like to see that journey from that 2005 era through the early 10s when Serial came out and podcasting started taking off more, and then COVID, and now we're in this era where it's 2025 and I think everyone has a podcast. Like my mom wants to
Right.
start a
Yeah.
podcast unironically.
Yeah. We've
And
gone from people not knowing what a podcast is to everyone having a podcast.
exactly. I don't have a podcast yet. I
This
feel
we'll
very.
turn this into a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. People have said that. Maybe this should be on Buzzsprout, but like to see that entire journey, I'd love to get an understanding of your perspective on the podcasting industry from then to now. And I know that's a terribly broad and general question, but I feel like you probably have some incredible insights there.
We have a lot of opinions for
Yeah.
sure. We love podcasting. One of the great things about podcasting is the fact that no one owns it. No one owns it. That's not true for video, right? If you've got video content, then you're going to go to TikTok, you're going to go to YouTube. You don't have a lot of options. With podcasting, anybody can have an RSS feed with all of their audio file hosted, and nobody can shut you down. Nobody can deplatform you. Might take you off Apple Podcasts, but then you're still going to be on Spotify. Or they take you off Spotify, you're still on Overcast. Or anybody who has access to your RSS feed, you can be anywhere. And so I love that about podcasting, that nobody owns it. And so you have every topic under the sun. There's a podcast about it, which is connecting all of these fragmented groups. It's the early days of the internet, right? It's the early days of keep podcasting weird, right? The idea that there's enough groups out there that think the way that you think. One of my favorite podcasts that I talk about is a Star Wars toy podcast. I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I just enjoy listening to these guys talk about Star Wars toys. And that's the whole podcast. It's about, oh, there's this new Han Solo black figure that's coming out in Target. And like it's such a niche thing. And that's what's really cool about podcasting is there's no one that owns it. Anybody can start a podcast. There's all different topics, and you can find a small community, and that's still fine, right? If you can get your little group, your little cohort together, it's a great experience. And so I love podcasters and talking to creators and, about their vision and seeing all the different ways that they come up with to capitalize on what they're doing with podcasting, what that looks like. There's just tons of stories of different ways that people use podcasting because there's no one proper way to do it.
This is making me so nostalgic. Like back in the early days of podcasting, some friends of mine started what ended up being one of the first podcasts ever to be number one on iTunes for quite a while. And it was a Harry Potter podcast of all things.
Yeah.
So to your point about Star Wars toys, it was like in the lead up and after the last Harry Potter book was coming out, they would go on once a week and just talk about Harry Potter and people
Yeah.
loved it. And that was 20 years ago. The main host of the show now runs a podcast consulting studio and is still podcasting, and that's his life's passion. And they were kids back then, and it's opened career doors for so many of them. So I
Yeah.
I love this. Yeah, just really great to hear from your perspective, having seen it all through like you have.
And so you have this amazing community of podcasters, this amazing technology that is so much fun, reminds you of the early days of the internet. And then we're there with a product. And so we love it. It's so much fun to be able to work on. We got a podcasting conference last week, and it's just so energizing to be around podcasters. It's so much fun to have a product in that space.
So, what would you say when it comes to Buzzsprout? How do you guys differentiate compared to other hosting and distribution platforms out there?
That's what's so great about building on top of Rails is that we just nobody can compete with us in terms of the features that we have. We have features that our competitors just don't have. We implemented a mobile app for both Android and Apple in both native experiences within 9 months. And the only reason it took 9 months was because we probably spent 3 or 4 months trying to figure out what we wanted to do in the native app. Like we didn't just take page per page, we actually built a native app. But the only reason we can build features like that is because we're built on top of Rails. And we're like literally we're standing on the shoulders of other people that have built out capabilities. They have gifted it to the open source community. And that's why we're big proponents of the Rails Foundation and we're contributing members because we get to benefit from that. And so Buzzsprout differentiates itself based on our ability to deliver features that our competitors just they can't. And we also one of the things not related to Rails that differentiates us that we learned was support. Like podcasters are not like I'm super extroverted. And I thought podcasters would be more like me, but they're way more introverted. And they typically record alone, speaking into a microphone, and they don't have a lot of interaction with people. They don't get a lot of affirmation. They don't get a lot of encouragement. And what we realized was if we invested in our support team could really help podcasters when they're working on their 10th episode and it's getting harder and they're realizing just how much time it takes to do the editing and stuff like that. And so we've invested heavily in our support team of being available and not just answering technical questions, but helping them, like helping drive them to resources that might help them get over obstacles that they run into as podcasters. And so that's been something that we fell into. We didn't expect it. Like we just thought of support as technical support. But then when you get to know the community and you get to know the needs of the customers that you're looking to deliver value, you learn, oh man, this is such a great opportunity. And so our support team is just amazing.
You talk a lot about the podcasting community and how deeply embedded you guys are in that space. And I know you also go to many Ruby on Rails conferences, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at Rails World next week. Do you feel like being embedded in the Ruby and Rails ecosystem as well has helped drive your success, like from a community standpoint?
They're similar in that the Rails community is so open. If you're a newbie and you come into Rails, nobody's going to make you feel stupid. They're going to encourage you. We're nice because Matt's is nice. And I think it's very similar to the podcasting community. Podcasting community, they remember what it was like when they launched their first episode, the insecurities of that. And so when somebody comes into the podcasting community, it's also very open and encouraging of, hey, like I remember I've been there. And we actually pay for our podcasters if they want to go to there's two big conferences every year. If they want to go to that conference, we will buy them a ticket to go because we know how important it is to be able to be around other people that have experienced the same kind of issues that you're experiencing and to encourage one another. And so it's very similar to both communities, the Rails community, open and encouraging, and in the podcasting community, the same thing.
I think that's fantastic. I love that you guys provide that sort of support and care to newer members of your community to help them grow in their podcasting careers. And I believe you're also sending out a couple Ruby and Rails podcasters to Amsterdam. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. So every year we reached out when the first Rails World was announced. We reached out to the Rails Foundation about how we could partner, and they really wanted podcasting to be part of the conference. And we were like, man, we would love to to do that. And so we've sponsored the event where we'll set up a recording studio in the conference for podcasters to be able to have a space to be able to go and do interviews with David and other contributors and be able to get them in there and do interviews. And we've tweaked it every year to make it a little bit different, to figure out ways. Like one year we launched a new podcast, and just providing a way for podcasters to be able to get to the Rails World conference and then have a studio to use while they're there. And yeah, so we've got, I think, 3 podcasters that we are getting their tickets and providing ways for them to be able to make it to Rails World.
That's awesome. Thank you for doing that. I have a couple of Ruby friends who are coming because of your support, so I'm grateful.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we also have Marty Hott, who is the director of open source at Ruby Central, who recently started the Ruby Gems podcast, which everyone
Okay.
should
Yeah.
go and download immediately, hosted through Buzzsprout. He's going to be there at Rails World next week, as well as David Hill, who's his co-host. He used to host the Ode to RailsConf podcast leading
Yes.
up to the final RailsConf. Yeah, excited to see what they get up to in Amsterdam and how they make use of your studio too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just two questions to wrap this up. The first one is we're talking a lot about community. Looking forward, what kind of impact do you and the team at Higher Pixels want to have on the Ruby and Rails ecosystem? What do you want that impact or legacy to be?
Oh, interesting. I think we're still trying to figure that out. We have not, we've been focused on building product from the beginning, and we're not open source contributors. And that's something that we're trying to learn. Like, how can we be better at bringing back into the ecosystem that we've benefited from so much? So one of the things that I'll be looking to do at Rails World is to talk to other people in the Rails community about what's unique about Buzzsprout that could help the Ruby on Rails. Rails has benefited from what 37 Signals has experienced, what Shopify has experienced. What can we take from what we've learned at Buzzsprout? And I think what's unique about Buzzsprout is the scale at which we are serving up massive amounts of data, of public assets, of MP3s and RSS feeds. And so I'm hoping that there might be an opportunity for us to begin to help the Rails open source project benefit in the area of active storage. That
Mm,
might be an area that Buzzsprout can uniquely speak into, specifically in the area of public assets. 37 Signals has done an excellent job for things that you need to keep secure. But for us, we don't want it secure. We want it open to the public, and we want to limit the number of API calls that are being made to be able to serve up those public assets. And so that might be a specific area that we can press into that might be able to help us contribute to the open source. But in the absence of that, continuing to support Rails World and the Rails Foundation.
That's incredible. And then last question for you. Would you recommend that new startups today adopt Ruby and Rails in their tech stack?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I've got a cousin who's looking at building a product, and he's, I don't know what to use, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, give me your requirements. Give me your first draft. And in, I don't know, 6 hours, I had a real application up on Rails that was demonstrating the kind of functionality that he needed for his app. And it's just an incredible framework to be able to move fast and adapt and build product. So yeah, I would 100%. I still think it's the best thing out there for building software,
Absolutely.
web software.
Thank you so much, Tom. This has been such a fun, lively conversation. I appreciate it so much, and it's great to meet you. And I'm excited to connect with you in Amsterdam next week.
Yeah, look forward to seeing you in person. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Likewise. I'll see you then.